Yay!
Hey guys, what's up? It's your old boy, Mark3, and we are here to do another countdown video, but this time we are taking a break from video games and talk about something I love just as much as video games. My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I started watching My Little Pony when I was in my sophomore year in high school, because I wanted to see what the hype was about, what all the craze was about, and I watched an episode and was like, alright, not bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so I watched another episode like, oh, it's good. And I watched another episode, and another episode, and another episode, and another episode, and you know, I became a brony later on, and I have no shame in that whatsoever. I am still a brony, and I will not stop loving My Little Pony, as you can see by my shirt and my tattoo. I love the show so much, it's become one of my favorite shows of all time. And with Generation 5 around the corner, I figured it would be the best time to showcase my top 20 favorite episodes of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic with you guys. Now, the only rule I must go over here with this list is it has to be episodes from Friendship is Magic, so I will not be including episodes from the sub-series Equestria Girls. So with that out of the way, guys, let's get started. This is my top 20 favorite episodes of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Starting off about as chaotic and disastrous as Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark is my number 20 choice, Horseplay. In this episode, Twilight sets up a play celebrating 1,000 years, or one's anniversary, that's what the show calls it, just bear with here, when Princess Celestia first raised the sun, and so Twilight, trying to be as authentic as she could be, cast Celestia herself reenacting what she did, despite the fact that Celestia herself has no acting experience whatsoever, but Twilight thinks this was all good because it's genuine and authentic. But little does Twilight know that Clint Eastwood already tried something like that and failed. The main reason this episode is on this list is because I'm a fan of movies like Ed Wood and A Disaster Artist, where filmmakers make questionable decisions on what they're doing, but decide to go along and do it anyway. And Horseplay just really showcases how capable Twilight is as a director. Costumes and props aren't going as planned, sets are being a bit disastrous, and Celestia herself is a pretty shitty actress. And every single minute of it is just as glorious and entertaining to watch. I also put this episode on this list because it has a really good moral of how, you know, you could never hide anything to your friends just for the sake of not trying to make them feel bad. This episode is as disastrous as it sounds and as chaotic as it sounds, and is just as every bit of entertaining as it sounds. Let's gather around the campfire and talk about my number 19 choice, Sleepless in Ponyville. The Cutie-Mark Crusaders, Sweetabelle, Scootaloo, and Applebloom go out on a camping trip with Rarity, Applejack, and Rainbow Dash, whom Scootaloo idolizes so much. And so they all go on camping, and then Rainbow Dash would always tell everyone scary stories that would constantly freak Scootaloo out, which would cause Scootaloo to be afraid of telling Rainbow Dash, again who she idolizes, that she is afraid. This episode not only has some great slapstick and some funny comedic timing like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, but also has what I consider to be Scootaloo at her best character development-wise. The episode has a bit of a psychological edge to Scootaloo as a character that, while may not exactly be deep per se, but has some interesting aspects to her character, such as the fact that, you know, she loves Rainbow Dash so much, she loves to hang out with her, and she tries to be like her, to the point where she doesn't want to tell Rainbow Dash that she's afraid, not just of the stories that she tells, but the fact that she's, you know, afraid in general, despite how much she tries to be like a daredevil like she is. Princess Luna is always a badass pony to watch, and seeing her bond with Scootaloo about the problems that she's going with is actually pretty soothing to watch. And the talk Scootaloo had with Rainbow Dash at the end, for me, is probably one of the show's most heartwarming moments. Trying to stand out in the worst way possible is my number 18 choice, Newbie Dash. In this episode, Rainbow Dash finally achieves her dream of becoming a member of the Wonderbolts, but things don't go well for her on her first day, when she is, of course, succumbed to the name Rainbow Crash like she has always been called. Now, when I first saw Newbie Dash, I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought, you know, Rainbow Dash was out of character. I thought she was way too cocky, way too egotistical, and she tries way too hard to stand out, only to make it a disaster for the Wonderbolts. And then, rewatching this episode, I love this episode for those exact same reasons. Throughout the series, Rainbow Dash has always been about standing out, and for me, it was this episode that is the epitome of that description of her character. The episode really showcases that Rainbow Dash, while is a good leader and is good at giving orders, she seems to have trouble following orders though. And I think this episode really does a good job at showcasing how flawed of a character Rainbow Dash is, despite how awesome she is. Though I will say the moments where Rainbow Dash tries to be like her friend in order to stand out, yeah, that could get pretty awkward to watch, and I will admit that. It's still pretty crazy. But besides that, Newbie Dash is an episode that I'm kind of glad that I rewatched, and I actually like it a bit more than I did the first time. When you take Suicide Squad and make it good, you get hopefully James Gunn's interpretation of the series, but you also do get my number 17 choice, Frenemies. In this episode, Queen Chrysalis, T-Rex, and Cozy Glow are ordered by Grogar to find his bell, and they must do it as a team, but the problem is they have trouble working as a team. What I love about this episode is it focuses entirely on the main villains throughout the rest of the series and their struggles of working with each other as they continue to work against each other, and it's just every bit as entertaining to watch, and you could not ask for a better episode about villains than this. And seeing these three working together is actually a bit engaging to watch as they all set aside their differences and they realize they have one goal: kill Twilight. Okay, maybe not that word is a bit too extreme for My Little Pony, but you get the idea. And do these three actually become friends in the end? Well, they kind of sort of do, but they learn to put aside their differences and focus on getting Twilight, and to be quite fair, that's a more interesting payoff, actually. Frenemies overall is a really entertaining episode about the main six's worst enemies kind of sort of working with each other. Chaos and madness all over Ponyville is my number 16 choice, The Return of Harmony. I should probably get this out of the way, as I should have before I started making this list. I will be including two-parter episodes as one episode in this list because basically these episodes are just one gigantic episode. They just obviously couldn't fit them all in a half-hour runtime, so they just split them. So yeah, that's how I see it when making this list. So anyways, in this two-parter episode, chaos is happening all over Ponyville. Nothing is making sense. And then we see it's all the work of a new villain known as Discord. Yes, villain. As in, this is way before everybody started shipping him with Fluttershy. Myself included. So it is up to the main six to find the elements of harmony and put Discord in its place before Discord starts splitting every pony apart. Now, the main reason why this episode is in this list because this episode is a great introduction to the chaotic character known as Discord. What's great about Discord is he doesn't necessarily try to destroy Ponyville, he just does whatever the hell he wants with it, and it is just as every bit of entertaining as it is. And since he does have the personality of Q from Next Generation, who better to cast as Discord than Q himself, John Delancey? And since this episode showcases how maddening Discord is, this gives the animators excuse to do whatever the hell they want with him. And considering what he did with Ponyville, I could tell the animators and John Delancey himself were having a ton of fun with this episode, as I was having a ton of fun watching this episode. Hemi's speech about friendship aside in the climax, this episode is chaotic and pretty funny to watch, and I just love every single moment of it. Being in a hurry to learn a lesson is my number 15 choice, Lesson 0. In this episode, Twilight, being as paranoid as she is, believes that Princess Celestia will fail her if Twilight doesn't send her a letter as she's supposed to do every single week about what she has learned. And so Twilight tries her best to make a friendship problem so she can send a letter to Celestia. The main thing that really sells this episode and does really well is showcasing Twilight slowly descending into madness. And believe me when I say this episode is just as psychotic as it sounds. This episode is not only funny as hell, mostly for the scenes where Twilight just goes insane, but it's also a fascinating character study, as we see Twilight having a conversation with Princess Celestia at the end, and it's actually pretty deep. Overall, Lesson 0 is funny, psychological, and also very intriguing to watch. Feeling all partied out after watching my number 14 choice, Party of One. After holding a very special birthday party for her pet alligator Gummy, Pinkie Pie has been seen as the real party animal she's been admired so much, and then so she decided to hold another party so soon right after an after birthday party. But then her friends decide to skip out on it, and Pinkie Pie tries to wonder why they would skip out on it. The episode is kind of like Lesson 0, but with Pinkie Pie instead of Twilight. The episode has an interesting psychological edge as we see Pinkie Pie slowly descending into paranoia in each passing scene. And the final few minutes of this episode is so nuts. I'm just waiting for the credits to come up to say, directed by David Lynch. Party of One is very goofy and lighthearted, yet also very dark and twisted at the same time. But that's not my favorite Pinkie Pie episode as we come to my 13th choice, Pinkie Pride. Pinkie Pie has always been seen as the best party planner in all of Ponyville, but then competition heats up when a new character, Cheese Sandwich, arrives and tries to out-party Pinkie Pie, and they both face off against each other in a party off, or whatever the hell you call it. Pinkie Pie has always been known as the loud, fun, eccentric pony who is all about partying, but this episode allows her to showcase her more emotional side, and it's showcased really well in this very sentimental song that she sings, and I think it's done really well. And the battle between Pinkie Pie and Cheese Sandwich itself is just as over the top as it sounds, and it's just as every bit of entertaining to watch. And Weird Al Yankovic as Cheese Sandwich. Do I really need to say anything else? Showcasing their love and appreciation for the community is my number 12 choice, Slice of Life. In this 100th episode, the main six are out fighting a bugbear. Yeah. While everyone else is getting prepared for the wedding of Cranky and Matilda. And that's basically it, actually. This episode doesn't really focus on the main six, as it mostly focuses on the background characters that the most hardcore bonus recognize, such as Dr. Hooves, Derpy Hooves, DJ Palm 3, and many others, including the pony versions of the cast of The Big Lebowski. Yeah, and they say My Little Pony is only for little girls, huh? This episode takes said characters and just do whatever the hell they want with them, and honestly, they do that to their full advantage. For example, Sweetie Drops has been a secret agent this entire time. Why? I don't know. Neither do the writers, but to be quite fair, they don't care, and to my credit, they showcase how they don't care, and they're having a ton of fun with these characters, as I'm having a ton of fun watching these characters. And remember Pinkie Pie's pet alligator Gunny? Yeah, he talks, though kinda, sorta. He only speaks in his mind, and he gives all sort of philosophical speech about life. I don't know why, but it is so incredibly funny for how out of place it seems, and I love every single moment of it. Slice of Life is not only a funny episode featuring the meme characters, it's also a great love letter to the brony community. Putting your hoof down but better is what I like to classify my number 11 choice, It Ain't Easy Being Breezies. As every pony watches the migration of a fairy-like species known as the Breezies, Spike, being Spike, screws it up, and so Fluttershy decides to take care of a handful of the Breezies in her own room before they could continue migrating. But things might be a little bit complicated, as she tends to be a little too kind, and their leader, the Breezies' leader, tends to be a little too cruel. The reason I compare this episode to Putting Your Hoof Down, which I don't hate as every other brony does, is that this episode handles this sort of message the same way Putting Your Hoof Down does, but a bit better, where it's always okay to be kind, but not too kind to the point where you're kind of a pushover, and it's okay to be aggressive, but not so aggressive to the point where everyone will just turn away from you. And I think this episode tackles this sort of subject matter a lot better. And also, Seabreeze himself is a pretty funny character, and hearing him yelling at high-pitched Scottish accent, I'm pretty sure it's a Scottish accent, always gets a laugh out of me. And Fluttershy, being my favorite pony, that is, really showcases her character flaw, as she is a very kind and sweet pony, but she may be a bit too kind. And then later in the episode, she started to get a bit more aggressive, but aggressive in the right way, unlike Putting Your Hoof Down, which kind of executes that message a bit backwards, to be honest. But I love how they showcase it better here in this episode through Fluttershy's actions, and that's the main reason why I love this episode.